So I think in general, like it's hard to admit that you're wrong about an initial hypothesis around customers. And I'm seeing some founders that are like, okay, I have this hypothesis for market A, right? But I couldn't go after market A for some reason, right? They assume that the same hypothesis will work for market B. And when I talk about market, I'm talking mainly like geographic market, right?
Yeah.
If it's working in Italy, right, and the hypothesis is strong in Italy, oh, I'm gonna launch it in Spain, and then I'm gonna launch it in Germany, right?
Yeah.
But just because it's like an hypothesis that people think that like you almost layer an hypothesis that you have in a market on other markets, but it's not true. Like you need to be having some solid data that also the same hypothesis is valid for a lot of other markets.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not even just other markets, right? It's also whenever actually you launch maybe a new feature or a new module or a new product line, or you look at an adjacent target audience segment, right? You kind of need to redo the work. And even if you just stay in the same market with the same product, with the same people, you need to continuously test whether they are still happy because there's new players coming to the market. Things change, right? You have control over your little piece, but there's this whole context happening around your customers, all these external factors that are outside of your control. So you need to keep on doing that work. And most of the companies I've seen just don't, for a myriad of reasons. I've also seen this issue with a lot of companies where they want, of course, to ensure an amazing customer experience. And to do that, they don't want to confuse their customers. So they say, okay, there's just going to be one account manager, and that's going to be the point of contact for this customer. And it will not be confusing. There will be just one person. And I get that. But for me, I've worked in product before that was kind of highly problematic. Because I wanted to speak with the customers too. I wanted to do customer discovery, interviews, surveys, and that was often blocked, right? It was, okay, you can go through this account manager because we want to have one point of contact. So I completely understand that, why you don't want to confuse, but it's also highly problematic because you're kind of nipping customer discovery in the bud.
Yeah, I always say that whenever somebody join, like my recommendation to people that just join a company, whatever their role is, right? It could be like marketing, it could be product, it could be engineers, it could be anything. I always recommend to spend time truly understanding who their customers are, because it's not common. Very few people do that. And if you just join a new company and you spend a little bit of time understanding who your customers are, and what I mean by that, I'm not even talking about, set up interviews with customers, because
you just align on who, right? Yeah.
No, because early on, right, as you said, you don't, maybe like you just joined, you don't want to like get out of what you're being hired for, right? Like you want to focus on the job that you need to get done. But even like just simply ask your customer support team to send you 100 conversations that they had with customers. Like already that, right? Nobody else does that in the team.
Yeah.
And just reading through those conversations give you so much more insights about who your customers are than anybody else in the company. And by knowing that, you do your job better. You're going to be able to do your job better.
Yeah. And I think there another really big issue is that even for small companies, I've seen this for companies as small as maybe 30 people, that silos are a very huge issue. And that's why, like I, for example, really like to start with like one-on-one stakeholder interviews and workshops to kind of ask different leaders from different departments or different team members these questions, like who are you serving? And I found that many times the different departments have completely different answers. They're serving entirely different audiences and also selling entirely different products, which is, of course, a very bad starting point, right? Because the product tech department might be building something for one audience that has all of these features, and sales is selling something completely different. And I'm always surprised how big of an issue these silos are, even for small organizations. And there I really like, I'm now reading this very familiar book by Sean Ellis and Morgan Brown called Hacking Growth. And I find it really inspiring, this idea of having growth teams which are interdisciplinary, where you have a marketing person, an engineer, a data analyst, and product owner from different departments coming together and trying to break through these silos.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult challenge to try to solve, because unfortunately there's a lot of politics in companies, right? And even if you're the founder or CEO, whatever, it's difficult to deal with politics, right? Like, it's not that all of a sudden you say things are not going to change from the morning to the night, right? So I think breaking silos is definitely like a big challenge, like a lot of companies face, but it's also a difficult one, because you have to deal with politics, and every single company has politics. So I think it's a difficult one. So I'm not surprised that there's a lot of silos in a lot of companies. So yeah, I hope, one thing that I'm gonna make an hypothesis here. I think with like the recession coming and like the bad economy and so on, whenever companies start to realize that maybe they only have few months of life, right? That could be like potentially a push to change things and break silos. And because if things have always gone okay, right?
Yeah.
Why should we change it?